If I told you that the difference between where you are today and where you could be 5 years from now is just one small daily habit, would you believe me? Not a big degree, not a miracle opportunity, just what you choose to learn every single day. Because the truth is simple and powerful. People who educate themselves daily don't wait for life to change. They change their life themselves. Most people think education ends when school ends. They believe learning is something that happens only in classrooms, only when someone teaches you, but the most successful people in the world know something different. They understand that self-education is a quiet superpower. It doesn't announce itself, it doesn't demand attention, but over time it transforms everything: your confidence, your income, your mindset, and your future. Think about this for a moment. Every day you are learning something anyway. From social media, from conversations, from mistakes. The question is not whether you are learning, the question is what you are learning, and whether it is moving you forward or slowly holding you back. Daily self-education is not about studying for hours or reading heavy books all night. It's about small, intentional habits that compound over time. Just like money grows with interest, knowledge grows with consistency. And today, I want to walk you through 5 simple habits that can turn ordinary days into powerful turning points in your life. The first habit is learning with a clear purpose, not random information. Many people consume content all day, videos, posts, podcasts, yet feel stuck. Why? Because random learning creates noise, not growth. Purposeful learning means you decide what kind of person you are becoming, and then choose knowledge that supports that direction. If you want confidence, you learn communication. If you want financial freedom, you learn money skills. If you want peace, you learn emotional control. When learning has direction, motivation follows naturally. Even 15 focused minutes a day can outperform hours of unfocused scrolling. One page read with intention is better than 10 videos watched without thinking. Purpose turns learning into progress. The second habit is reading or listening every single day, even on your busiest days. Successful self-educators don't wait for free time. They create it. They read a few pages before bed. They listen to audiobooks while driving. They turn dead time into growth time. And over weeks and months, this habit quietly rewires their thinking. At first, it feels small, almost pointless. But then one day you notice you're speaking differently, thinking faster, making better decisions. That's when you realize knowledge has been working in the background the whole time. The third habit is learning from people who are already where you want to be. You don't need to make every mistake yourself. That's the slowest way to grow. Books, interviews, podcasts, and biographies are shortcuts to wisdom. When you learn from someone else's journey, you borrow years of experience in minutes. But here's the key. Don't just admire successful people, study them. Notice how they think, how they respond to failure, how they manage time. Their mindset matters more than their results. When you learn how successful people think, you start making different choices without forcing yourself. The fourth habit is applying what you learn immediately, even in small ways. Knowledge without action creates frustration. Action turns information into confidence. You don't need to master everything before starting. You just need to use one idea today, one sentence practiced, one habit adjusted, one belief challenged. Most people wait to feel ready. Self-educated people move while learning, and every small action becomes proof that growth is happening. And finally, the fifth habit is reflecting on what you learned. At the end of the day, ask yourself one simple question: what did I learn today? This habit trains your brain to value growth. It turns learning into identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is behind and start seeing yourself as someone who is improving, because the real power of daily self-education is not just knowledge, it's self-respect. It's knowing that no matter where you start, you are not standing still. And once that identity forms, everything begins to change. Because when you see yourself as someone who is constantly growing, you stop waiting for permission to become better. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop saying one day. Growth becomes something you do, not something you hope for. This is where daily self-education begins to separate people who dream from people who build. At first, nothing looks different on the outside. Your life doesn't suddenly transform overnight. Your bank account doesn't instantly grow. People around you may not notice anything at all. But internally, something powerful is happening. Your standards are rising. Your thinking is sharpening. and your tolerance for a small, limited life starts to disappear. One of the biggest lies people believe is that motivation comes first and action comes later. In reality, it's the opposite. Action creates motivation. Learning creates clarity, and clarity creates momentum. When you feed your mind every day, even a little, you feel more in control of your future. That feeling alone is addictive in the best way. Think about how many people feel lost today, not because they lack talent, but because they lack direction. Daily self-education gives you direction. It helps you understand the world, understand people, and most importantly, understand yourself. You begin to recognize patterns. You notice why certain habits keep you stuck and why others move you forward. Another powerful effect of daily learning is confidence. Not loud confidence, not fake confidence, real quiet confidence, the kind that comes from knowing you are prepared. When challenges appear, and they always do, the self-educated person responds differently. Instead of panic, they search for solutions. Instead of fear, they look for lessons, because they have trained their mind to grow through problems, not run from them. Over time, your conversations change. You ask better questions. You explain your ideas more clearly. You listen more deeply, and people begin to take you seriously, not because you demand respect, but because knowledge naturally commands it. But here's something important to understand. Daily self-education is not about becoming perfect or knowing everything. It's about becoming slightly better than yesterday. Just 1%, one insight, one new perspective. When that becomes your lifestyle, you stop comparing yourself to others and start competing with who you were last month. There will be days when you feel tired, days when you don't feel like reading, listening, or learning anything new. Those days matter the most, because discipline on easy days doesn't change much. Discipline on hard days changes everything. Even 5 minutes on a low-energy day keeps the identity alive. I am someone who invests in myself. And the beautiful part is this. Once learning becomes part of your identity, it doesn't feel like work anymore. It feels like freedom. You realize that no one can take knowledge away from you. Jobs can be lost. Money can come and go. But what you know, how you think, and how you adapt, that stays with you forever. Daily self-education also protects you from manipulation. When you understand psychology, money, communication, and mindset, you stop being easily influenced. You make decisions consciously instead of emotionally. You choose long-term growth over short-term comfort. And slowly, your life begins to reflect that wisdom. Most people underestimate how powerful this is because it looks boring at the start. Reading instead of scrolling, listening instead of complaining, learning instead of blaming. But years later, the results speak louder than words. You don't need to be special to do this. You don't need perfect conditions. You just need a decision, a quiet decision that says, no matter what, I will learn something today. That decision, repeated daily, builds a future most people never reach. And this is where everything starts to come together. And when everything starts to come together, you realize something that completely changes the way you see your life. You were never behind. You were never incapable. You were simply undereducated in the areas that matter most. And the moment you take responsibility for your own learning, you take control of your direction. Daily self-education slowly shifts how you react to life. Problems stop feeling like walls and start looking like puzzles. Failure no longer feels like an ending, but feedback. And instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what is this teaching me? That single shift in thinking is the mark of someone who is growing on purpose. As the days pass, you'll notice something else. You become harder to discourage. Criticism doesn't break you the way it used to. Opinions don't control your emotions. Because when your mind is constantly expanding, small negativity has nowhere to settle. You become grounded, calm, focused. You also begin to respect yourself more, and self-respect changes behavior. You waste less time. You tolerate less nonsense. You protect your energy. You choose environments that support growth instead of comfort. This isn't arrogance, it's awareness. Awareness of your potential and the cost of ignoring it. What's powerful about daily self-education is that it works quietly. No applause, no instant reward. But one day you look back and realize you're speaking with clarity you didn't have before. You're thinking strategically instead of emotionally. You're making decisions that your old self wouldn't even understand. That's the compound effect in action. And here's the truth. Most people never hear. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. Goals inspire you, but habits shape you. And among all habits, daily learning is one of the few that improves every area of life at once. Career, relationships, confidence, money, peace of mind. Imagine two people starting at the same place. Same background, same opportunities. One chooses comfort. The other chooses daily self-education. At first, they look the same. A year later, there's a small difference. 5 years later, the gap is undeniable. 10 years later, they live completely different lives. Not because one was lucky, but because one chose to grow daily. This is why the habit of self-education is so powerful. It gives you options, it gives you leverage, it gives you the ability to adapt in a world that never stops changing. While others panic when things shift, you adjust, you learn, you move forward. And the best part, you can start today, not tomorrow, not next month, today. One page, one video, one lesson, one reflection. That's all it takes to begin rewriting your future. Daily self-education is not about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more of who you already are, informed, capable, and confident. So now the question isn't whether learning will change your life. The question is whether you'll choose to start. So if you take nothing else from this, remember this one truth. Your future is being shaped quietly every single day by what you choose to learn or choose to ignore. You don't need to transform your life overnight. You just need to show up for yourself daily. 5 simple habits, a few focused minutes, a commitment to grow even when no one is watching. That's how ordinary people build extraordinary lives. Not through luck, not through shortcuts, but through consistent self-education. 1 year from now, you will look back at this moment and you will either thank yourself for starting or regret that you didn't. The choice is yours, and it always has been. Start small, stay consistent, trust the process. Because when you invest in your mind every day, you build a life that no one can take away from you. Your growth begins now.